Good morning, evening, afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark,
And I'm Zoe.
and we are the Board Adventurers. Back to you with another Late to the Game. Today, we're going to review the two-player game Summoner Wars, designed by Colby Dodge. Sorry if I mispronounced that, and published by Plaid Hat Games. Now, Summoner Wars is a two-player card battling type of game where you choose a deck. And a deck, there's 6 pre-made decks in the box. So there's 6 different factions, I guess you could say. Yeah. You have the Cave Goblins, you have the Savannah Elves, you have the Polar Dwarves, you have the Fallen Kingdom, you have the Vanguards, and you have the Breakers. And each of them do their own specific thing. So each of them are going to come with a champion. From that champion, you're going to flip that card to the back, and that's going to tell you your starting setup on the board. From that starting setup, then you draw 5 cards from your deck, and then you're going to go in turn order. So first player will get 2 magic, second player will get 3 magic. Then you're going to go in almost like a phase order in terms of your turn. So first you're going to summon. So depending on how much magic you have, you're going to pay the magic that is at the top of your cards here. You'll summon any units. They have to be adjacent to a gate that's somewhere out on your board. Then you can move them. So the second phase is movement. So you can move up to 3 of your own units 2 spaces, and they have to move orthogonally. Same thing with summoning. You have to summon your units orthogonally to your gate. Next, you can do a structure. That's a build action. So you're going to build a gate, and it has to be in the back 3 line of your board, or adjacent to your summoner, wherever your summoner is on the board. After that, you get into like more of the strategic part of the game. You get into the attacking portion, where you can attack a character that you're either within range of or you're adjacent to. So you're going to look at the number on some of these cards. So you'll see they have a number on the bottom right there. And it either has a sword or an arrow with a bow on it. A bow means that you can attack in range in a straight line orthogonally. It has to be clear spaces of up to 3 spaces away, meaning that if I had a character that is behind a gate, I cannot shoot through the gate to a character that's 2 spaces away from the gate. Like, that won't work. And anything with a sword is a melee, so you have to be adjacent to that card for you to attack. You're going to take the number that's on that card, and you're going to roll that many die. For any, when you roll the die, you're going to look and see what symbols are rolled. If you're doing a melee attack, you're looking for sword symbols. So each of one of those is going to be considered a hit on that character. The health of the character is going to be up here. Correct, yeah, up here. And you're going to then subtract that value from that character's health. If it's enough to hit it to 0, that card is then removed from the board. And then you're going to keep attacking until you attack with 3 characters. Then you're going to go into magic. So depending on how many cards you have in your hand, so say for example I have 4 cards still in my hand, I can choose to discard as many cards as I want from my hand to get that many magic on the board that you can use for a later turn. After that, you can play... you'll draw back up to 5 cards, and then your opponent will go. You're going to keep playing until one of your summoners is defeated. The whole point is to defeat your enemy's summoner. One thing about this is that your deck is limited. When you get to the end of your deck, once you finish drawing, you do not reshuffle your deck back in. So whatever you have in your deck you have a one-time shot with those. And there are certain things, there's certain factions that deal with, certain movement abilities or certain card abilities. And maybe I'll mention here, but we also have events. Events are also located in your deck. They'll tell you the phase that you can play them in. So it'll say it directly on the card. With that said, that's really how you play Summoner Wars. What do you think about it?
Yeah, so Summoner Wars is a game that we both pretty much enjoy. It's definitely takes its inspiration from Magic the Gathering. That's pretty obvious in terms of kind of the theme and the type of card game that it is, in terms of like a head-to-head battler game
I can see that.
with fantasy elements. Although one thing I do really like with this, in terms of like how it's compared to Magic the Gathering, which for Magic the Gathering, a game that kind of gets more complicated the more you get into it. This one kind of really simplifies what Magic the Gathering kind of does in terms of what your deck is and what you can do. So your deck doesn't it has it's a hefty deck, but there's a lot of doubles and triples of certain cards.
Right.
You kind of realize pretty early on that it's not about the different types of cards you have in there, but more of the how you strategize each of those specific cards.
Right.
Which is one thing I really do enjoy. And in terms of how different each faction is, it's not like, for these type of games, you know, there's going to be factions that kind of break the rules a little bit that only they can do. That's kind of like the fun of getting a new faction, of how they alter the rule set a little bit,
Right.
to make it unique. This game does it, like, each faction is really, really unique. Like, one that kind of makes you take control of the opponent's cards. One that kind of, you know, make you cycle through your deck, which is interesting given that you can't shuffle your deck out.
Right.
So it's a different type of strategy. I kind of like the different rule set breaking each faction does and how you strategize for each.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the game?
I mean, I love this game. Not gonna lie, this is one of my favorite 2-player games. I love that they can give you a deck. One thing we didn't mention is that you can actually deck build in this game.
Yeah.
There are some cards that come as like almost like gray units. You can shift them in. But one of the things I just really like is that you could just take any of these decks, you could just set it on the board, and you can just go.
Yeah.
And then every phase is built right there on the board for you to see. I like that all of these decks are just, they feel so different to play. Like, one of my favorite, they're definitely these cave goblins here. The idea for them is that they can get their units out very quickly.
Yeah.
So like, there are a lot of 0-cost units, meaning that you can summon as many as you want.
Yeah, just overwhelm your
And then
opponent,
just swarm. It's kind of like, feels like a swarm.
Mm-hmm.
Then another one that I do like these polar dwarves. I love the idea of almost like an impending sweep of snow coming at you.
Yeah.
Because what they can do is they can build moving structures,
Mm-hmm.
and you can summon next to those structures.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
It does a good job of making each faction feel completely unique.
Yeah, it does.
It not in just like, oh, this one is stronger than the other one. They have stronger cards and yours have weak. It's more just kind of like, it really makes you feel like you're doing something. Like you mentioned, the goblins, it's kind of like, feel like you're swarming an enemy, or the swarmer where you feel like there's an impending doom, like you mentioned. It gives you like a unique feeling, or I believe like these Retalis, where you're just kind of like replacing the units that are out there, so they feel like expendable.
Right.
Which is kind of like, I just kind of like how.
And I believe for them too is that you can actually use some of your own health to just bring back units.
Yeah.
It's kind of like almost like it feels thematic in that you're kind of like sacrificing your own body to bring back stuff to attack.
Yeah, there's like a sacrifice each time you bring it. So
Yeah.
it's cool, and I kind of really, that's the part of some of the wars that I really enjoy. Just kind of like experiencing each faction. Now, one thing with some of the wars as well is that there are additional factions that you have to purchase at additional cost.
Right.
And that's kind of part of the fun of the game as well. Like you can enjoy a lot of the base game, but part of some of the wars, getting into some of the wars, is buying the additional decks.
Right, kind of seeing how other, factions will, battle with yours. One thing also, just going back again to stuff we haven't mentioned, is that there's certain factions that require boosts. We haven't even talked about boosts yet, but they add a whole bunch of like other random effects to I know these Savannah elves, they deal with a lot of boost in theirs. So there'll be cards that give you the effect of a boost that you can then spend at some point, either transferring it to other units or using it outright to just either add more movement, add more power, add more range. It does a whole bunch of other things, but this does it in a very streamlined fashion.
And one thing I do like about this game as well is that usually games of these type, the endgame condition is a point system. Whoever reaches the 20 points first or you have hit points. Whoever gets down to 0 is the loser and that person's the winner. This one kind of changes it, where you have to defeat the other person's champion. You have to defeat that specific character to win the game. I really like that. It makes it feels like it's a war between two factions, and you're killing or defeating the leader, and everyone else follows suit and surrenders.
Right.
I kind of like that as well. That's really thought out on how just the endgame conditions kind of work in this game.
Yeah.
Which I enjoy. I did want to bring up cons. Any game that we love, that we gush about, I want to bring up some sort of con.
That's fair. Yeah.
One thing when we decided to review this game, one thing I was thinking about was the board. I am not a fan of the board.
Okay. It's just a little simplistic.
It's simplistic, but also it's bland, and it kind of takes away from the thematic nature of this game. I wish there were multiple. I don't know. Maybe there is, because there's a lot of additional things that you could purchase for the game. But I wish there were additional boards that kind of change the backdrop. That's more faction specific, so it can add to the feeling of feeling like that specific faction.
Yeah, like a playmat for this would be, if it doesn't exist already, would actually be really pretty cool. I take the board as something that's more functional.
It is. It's very functional.
Like something that's really like cool to look at. And like I get why they made it as it is. But, yeah.
I mean,
I can understand that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I get it. It's super functional. It has like everything you need in terms of like, it even has like the board is a player aid. It tells you all the phases in the round, which I really
so you never really have to reference the rulebook. It tells you exactly what to do.
Yeah, I totally get that the board is completely functional. I just wish there was a lot of, especially with this game, which is very thematic in terms of how it feels, just a visual aid for that thematic feeling would be beneficial, I think.
That's fair.
For something like this. But honestly, it's a very small con, to say the least, and it's easily fixable with like player mats, or if that's not already available, since there's like a ton of additional content that you could purchase for the game.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
So in terms of buy, play, or pass, where do you stand on it?
This, for me, is a straight buy. It's one of the better two-player games that's out there. So if you like two-player games, this is kind of one that you probably should have in your collection, or at least experience. But even if you're not really that into two-player games, I think this really does stand on its own as like, if you're a board gamer, you should probably have this in your collection. So for me, this is a straight buy.
Okay, nice. I think with you, I'm there with you. I love this game. This is most likely like our kind of biased opinion on it, but this would be a buy for me as well.
Yeah.
I love the feeling of this game. Whenever I bring it out, it always feels different whenever I play it.
Yeah, 100%.
The faction just feels so specific. If maybe the price point of the box might seem a little too high, there is a starter pack that comes with only 2 factions. I've played one of them. It's not as exciting as the base game, in my opinion. I love the factions that come in base. They just feel so different. One thing, again, we didn't mention is that each of these decks comes with 3 champions that have their own like major special ability. And when you can get one of those out, it turns into like, it's like, okay, well, now we got a problem.
Yeah. And one thing I did want to add, I didn't mean to cut you off, but one thing I did want to add in terms of like the buy, pass, or whatever, one thing to note if you're going to buy this game is that the fun of the game is buying the additional content that's for this. Getting more packs, experiencing that. So if you're don't want a game that's going to be sort of a money sink in that aspect, totally get it as a play or skip altogether. But if you're okay with really diving in, this is a buy, and you should probably buy this base starter set.
Yeah, I can't find a lot of 2-player games that hit me kind of like this game. I think this is something you definitely need to try. And if you get into it, there's plenty of packs out there. I know we have a lot of packs. We haven't even talked about some of the expansions we have in this box, but there's some good factions out there, exciting ones. And you can cater it to your play style. It's exactly 100%. Kind of like, But so that is our review of Summoner Wars, 2nd edition. We are the Board Adventurers. I'm Mark.
I'm Zoe.
We'll see you on the next adventure.